The deadliest mass shooting in U.S. history. Hail of gunfire raining down. Authorities saying Paddock acted alone, calling it a lone wolf attack.
This entire country still reeling after the worst shooting in American history. A massacre at a gay nightclub right here in Orlando overnight, waged by a lone gunman.
Scale that we've never seen in this country before in a Virginia Tech.
We got shots fired, 4:15 ASF. Route 291, sounded like an automatic firearm. I see the shots coming from Mandalay Bay.
Control, this is CP just advising there are people down on stage left.
We have an active shooter. We have an active shooter inside the whereabouts.
And they're coming for your firearms.
I don't think that's what they mean. Obviously, my controversial topic is Amendment 2, the right to bear arms. Or let me get that for you.
A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed.
What she said. So the issue is gun control, a very hot topic that both sides can't seem to play nice about. The topic is obviously very controversial, but not without merit. Now, what makes it controversial should be obvious. People are dying at the hands of guns, even though most people say, well, guns don't kill people. People kill people. Right. I totally agree with that. But it's controversial because of the many mass murders that we see happening in America, and it just seems out of control. And so gun control now becomes a topic where it's like, can we do something about controlling all the mass murders, right? Now, the basis here is freedom, right? So based on this argument, coming from a perspective of freedom, the Constitution backs the right for citizens of America to bear arms and won't be infringed upon by the government. I think we should go back to the origins of why this is even a thing. We are so far removed from the origins of these documents and when they were written up and why they were written up that I feel like sometimes we kind of forget what we're actually fighting for and legally what we have the right to. Take, for instance, the First Amendment, the right to, freedom of speech. A second grader, it's like, hey, why'd you do that? Because freedom of speech, I can say what I want, but that's not necessarily what the origins were about. It was not written up just so you can yell at anybody and say whatever you want. In the same ways, the Second Amendment was not just written up so you can shoot everybody. There was a reason for that. These Bill of Rights, Amendment number 2, was instituted because of what? It all started with freedom. We, the people, needed to exercise our rights to freedom, to bear arms for what purposes? To protect us. From who? Our government. So the American government, who are they? Are they the mafia? No, but sometimes they can be big, scary people, or so it would seem to the citizens, right? Because they have all the access to militia, to army, to weapons. And it started out with wanting to ensure constitutionally, legally, that they cannot infringe upon us, upon our rights. And the best way to do that was to protect yourselves with weapons. Therefore, times have changed. Society has changed. But the government is still the government. And there's always going to be this, this one eye on them, making sure they're not trying to infringe daily upon our rights. So, constitutionally, legally, trying to eradicate Amendment number 2 is, I'm not going to say it's not possible, but that would not, in my opinion, garner freedom, because I think it's directly coming against our freedoms to try to give or try to take it away. Now, I'm all for the asterisk. I'm all for an addendum. I'm all for, hey, what can we do to reform? So I guess now I'll give my view, which I've never touched a gun. I don't want to. But at the same time, I understand the need for weapons in our nations, in our world. Um, our world is fallen. I'm a born again believer. I follow the Beatitudes, the Sermon on the Mount. Nonviolence is what I desperately try to follow, and I believe in. However, I do realize that the world we live in, that is oxymoronic at times, and it's just very upside down. But the kingdom of God is very upside down in nature, and therefore I still do hold true to a non-violent approach to anything, and therefore we don't need guns if we are going to practice a non-violent way of living. However, the topic is freedoms, and so the Constitution protects the rights of citizens, and that is ensuring that citizens remain free. And so that's my view. That's what I hold. That's basically where the argument stems, where it originates. Now, they get a little crazy with they're trying to steal our guns and the whole thing. Calm down. We're sick of seeing kids kill their peers. It's out of control, and so reform. I don't know what that. So I believe in gun reform. I think we need to realistically make a good plan for what that can look like. I mean, something as simple as a background check, age limit. I was reading how now they passed a law that you're not allowed to become a stripper until you're 21 years old. That's good stuff, right? Because kids are so young and they need money and they're pressed for this and they need to pay for college. And so sometimes I think a lot of young women believe that that's a first option. Let's do the same thing with guns. Let's just put some reforms. Let's put some restrictions on it. And that is also, in my opinion, a way of fighting for your freedoms to be able to send your children to school and not fear for their lives. Your access, your freedoms to be safe. So that's my 2 cents on a controversial topic. We can go on and on and on. I've listened. I try to listen empathetically without being too judgy as to why this is so hard to fix. But I do understand, especially after listening to some of these lessons, how important it is to not yield, not even a little bit, to a government who seemingly, they try to take little infringe steps upon our freedoms as often as possible. And so just to stand your ground and to stand your right. Again, that doesn't mean you have to be a brat. That doesn't mean fighting for your freedoms should never not include listening to people's passionate pleas for the things that's actually making their lives uncomfortable. Because true freedom, like we discussed in these lessons and we've been talking about all semester, is when everybody has the right and access to societal freedom.